Okay, so I said that we were gonna try to do a nav bar in this lesson. Um, no, we're not. Change my mind. We're gonna do something else because I want to kind of go into something before we go into building a nav bar. Um, so yeah, we'll do that instead. Another thing I want to mention, my lessons, I hear myself and I'm saying a lot. Like I did right there. I'm human, so if that bothers you, please forgive me. It is not intentional. It's not something that I think I do regularly, but maybe I do. I don't know. But again, I'm human. We all do it. So might as well just add that to the dictionary or something. I don't know. Anyways, what I want to talk about in this lesson before we go into building a nav bar, because I want to kind of build up into the nav bar, I want to talk about another styling property. And this does not necessarily involve text, though it can be applied to text. Can be applied to backgrounds or what have you, but it is the border property. Okay, so we're gonna make borders. Okay, uh, so we're gonna change things up a little bit. We're gonna add something to our CSS that I'll try to explain as best as I can, and then we'll also play with borders. Okay, so with borders, you have the border property. Okay, and with the border, three things you can do with it. You can size the border, so you can specify the size, the style of the border, and also the color of the border. Okay. Now with the border property, we can combine all three of these values at once, and that's normally what we tend to do. But you can also single them out. Like you can just say border dash size or border dash style or border dash color if you want to do that. Most cases you'll do everything in one line like so. So let's do that. Let's put a border around something. Maybe I say let's say section. Okay, so we'll put a border around section. Okay, and it'll be all three of them. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come right here underneath this font family property, and I'm just gonna say border. Let's go with three pixels. Again, that is our size. The next is we can say the style. We'll say solid, and we already see that the default is black, so it gives us that. And then let's give it a color. Um, let's just say our favorite goldenrod. And then we have a border. Okay, and really simple as you can see. Again, we take the size. All right, so how thick we want this border to be, the style, and then the color. So we can also say dashed if we wanted to. You see that dashes the border. Likewise with the underline, we can say dotted, and it creates a dotted border. I forget if wavy applies. No, we can't do wavy. Oh well, darn rats. Um, but we could do solid, we could do dash, we could do dotted. Other thing again with size, we can say how thick we want that border to be or how thin we want it to be. Um, and notice here when I wrapped around section, it's touching here in these places. So there's a pixel border for this section and a pixel border for this other section. So that creates like a 2 pixel effect, if you will. Another thing we can do with the border is not only can we specify, by saying border size, border style, border color, but we can also, say border left, border right, border top, and border bottom. So we could just provide a border to just the top, bottom, left, or right of the element. Let's say, for example, um, on bold. Let's not do bold. Let's maybe on the nav link. I don't know why. Or the UL. We'll target that UL that the nav link is in. Just playing around with stuff. And let's just say border top, and I'll say 5 pixels solid green. This is looking really hideous, but this is just us playing around with it right now. And we see there's the border. Now, a couple things in mind. We put a UL, we put a border on the UL. Okay, here's something to consider. That UL, again, that is a block level element. So it's going to take up this entire row, and that is the reason why this border is going all the way across. Even though the UL stops right here, okay, that border is going all the way across because the UL is a block level element. So that means it's going to take up the entire row. Okay, so that's how the border property works. Another thing that we can do is we can apply a radius on the border. And that is by using this property border radius. Okay, and the border radius property is can curve our borders so it doesn't have this straight edge. Let me come over here and let me fix some of this because yeah, that UL, let's get rid of that because that doesn't make any sense. And I'm going to get rid of this wavy underlying thing that's just making me mad just looking at it. But okay, so let's say on section, we've applied the border. I'm going to make this border a little bit thicker so it'll help you see. I'm going to say 4 pixels. Okay, and I'm going to say border radius. And let's just say 5 pixels. And so now what you can see is here on the edges, you may or may not be able to see it. If not, we can adjust the pixel width. But it curves the corners of the borders. Like if I went to say 15 pixels, you can see a lot more right there. So now we see that the corners of the borders have curved. Okay, so one thing we could do, and this is going to look real messy right now, but in other instances it will look really nice. If we want to make a circle, we can make a circle by simply saying border radius 50%. And that creates an oval. That's because I'm sorry, because the width and the height are different. In which case it's going to create an oval like so, and that looks really bad. I told you it's going to look bad though. And we don't go any further than that. If you anything above 50% is going to provide the same thing. But we'll make circles and stuff in another lesson because there's a couple things I want to go over before we do that. But as you can see, border radius 50% is going to create either an oval or it's going to create a circle depending on the dimensions of the border. Okay, so that's going to lead into another lesson, perhaps the next one, maybe. We'll see. But practice with the borders. Put borders around stuff and anything else that you want to play with that we've touched so far. Let me get rid of this because I'm tired of looking at it. Let's go back to border radius 15 pixels. I kind of like that one actually. I normally don't do 15 pixels. I usually do 10 pixels, but I think maybe because of the size of that box, it looks better. But anyways, we're going to go into next. I think I want to do margin and padding. That'll be fun. Yeah, I think that'd be a good place right here. What we have. But again, play with the borders, and anything else, other lessons. You want to go back and play with those as well. Do that. Right now, this is just getting ourselves familiar with the properties. This does not look good. I will admit to it doesn't look good at all, but this is just kind of like a scratch sheet for us to play with. And then at some point, we'll start to actually put this stuff into actual practical use, okay? But right now, I just want you to get more familiar with the tools. So I hope that you're doing that. And I will see you in the next lesson. I believe we'll talk about margin and padding then. All right. I think so. Let's hope so. All right. Keep practicing. Get better. Write less terrible code. All right. Peace. Peace, power, blessings.